Hey folks, I'm Mark Ryan. This is still Super Review. No, I'm not in my studio, so if you hear dogs barking, you hear motorcycles going by, I apologize. Not much I can do about it right now, but this is the Moondrop Solis 2. So if you've been paying attention, you might have noticed that Moondrop's on a little bit of a tear right now, releasing number 2s of their IEMs. Over here, we've got the Chew 2, which is coming in at around 19 bucks. Here we've got the Moondrop Starfield 2 coming in at 110 bucks, and I will be doing reviews of these eventually. Don't worry. This is, however, the Moondrop Solis 2, and this will not be a full review right now. We're just going to unbox this thing, and I do want to put it on my measurement rig, see what the frequency response looks like. So kind of just like a little first look, mostly just because it's not every day you get to take a look at an IEM like this. Okay, so I mentioned the prices of these two IEMs. The Solis 2, guess the price. No, you're wrong. It's $2,700. Yes, 2,700 bucks. That makes the Solis 2 by far Moondrop's most expensive IEM to date. In fact, as the name implies, this is a sequel to the original Moondrop Solis, but I believe the price for that was only like 1,100 bucks. So they've definitely gone up market here with the Solis 2, and I'm pretty curious to see exactly what they've done. So the original Solis was still hybrid. It was sort of an EST and balanced armature showcase. There was no dynamic driver in it, whereas here with the Solis 2, this is introducing a dynamic driver. It's got at least a couple of balanced armatures. I forget the exact count. And it's got 4 ESTs. There's that dog I warned you about. But I think that the introduction of the dynamic driver will actually be a very big boon to the Solis, because while the original Solis is definitely not a bad IEM, and in fact, in some ways, it was kind of special for me, like special enough that I bought a copy of it for myself. It's not an IEM I would recommend to everybody. And now a $2,700 Solis 2, maybe still not the IEM I would recommend to everybody, but maybe it's the kind of IEM that you would love to be able to recommend to everybody, and that's what I wanted to find out. So yeah, we're just going to unbox this thing. I'll throw out my measurement rig. We'll do a little bit of squig crafting, just talking about what we think this thing might sound like. But just full disclosure, I have not heard this thing at all at this point. In fact, I haven't even taken this thing out of the box. This is really, for real, my first time taking this thing out of the box. So yeah, let's just unbox it, and we'll go from there. Quite the presentation, as you might expect for a $2,700 earphone. This thing appears to have popped out. Let's see. Ooh, it's a box within a box, and this appears to be all foam. So I'm going to put you to the side and hope there's nothing hiding inside there, and then we'll look at this box within a box. All right. Let's see. We've got a little trap door up here with our cable and some paperwork, which I won't bore you with. We've got a second trap door down here with our ear tips. Looks like we have got Moondrop's standard silicone tips. So they are like their wide nozzle version that comes with the blessing, as well as we've got a number of sets of foam tips here. And also it looks like more wide nozzles. And then of course, we've got the Solis itself, which allow me to struggle to get this one out too. Oh gosh, guys, it doesn't need to be this difficult. You certainly don't need an IEM to be made of actual silver, but if you're going to spend 2,700 bucks on an IEM, you probably do want it to be a little bit more than typical, a little bit extra special. And well, okay, I don't know that you could argue that being made of actual silver isn't pretty special. Now, look at the texturing on this. I am curious what this is going to be like to feel in my ear, because I did not predict this. It has got this very, very pronounced texturing all the way around this earphone. And this shape is unlike anything I've seen from another Moondrop. I can't think of any other Moondrop IEMs that have this shape. The nozzle looks pretty familiar. I would say width-wise, that looks a little bit smaller than Blessing, but I don't know, maybe not much. But yeah, holy, those are serious. Okay, for real. I'm gonna measure this thing and we'll be back looking at the squigs. Hold on. All right, folks, we're back. And this is the moment of truth. Take a look at the frequency response of the Moondrop Solis. But before we do that, I did actually want to quickly pull this up. This is Shenzhen Audio's official listing for the Moondrop Solis. Explains a few of the details that I wasn't entirely sure about. So driver configuration, 2 dynamic drivers, actually, 2 balanced armatures, and 4 ESTs. Price, yes, is $2,700 still. But also there was a little bit of information about how it was built. So I mentioned that I believed it was made out of silver. And it turns out that, yes, that is true, but maybe even more so than what I said, right? Here they are describing the entire housing is made of 925 silver. I'm not a jewelry person, so I have no idea what that means. But if you are, you might know what that means. And they say that the texture, the feather-like texture, which I talked about, is carved by jewelers, interestingly enough. They describe the golden sunbird design that they've got here as being a national treasure symbol. I don't know what that's all about, but what was it that stood out to me? Oh yeah, it's 24 karat gold. Sorry, the faceplate is soldered to the earphone with 24 karat gold. You ever heard of 24 karat gold being used as solder? Is that what that thing is saying? Like, that's okay. Starting to understand why this thing is $2,700. But okay, like I mentioned, we gotta take a look at the frequency response. So let's go back over here, and this is how this thing squigs. And if you want to check it out, I've got this live on squig.link right now. You can go check it out. I've also got linked in the description down below. But let's do a little bit of analysis. And just again, full disclosure, I have not heard this IEM yet. I am just looking at this, interpreting what I can from a squig, and well, the full review will be coming later. But well, it's fun to speculate, right? And if you know my preferences, you should know that this is a pretty appealing looking squig. I gotta be honest, right? And if you haven't looked at these things before, don't understand exactly how to interpret these things, this dotted line back here that you see in the background kind of represents my ideal sound signature. And if you look at a bunch of other earphones, you can see that they deviate from this line in various ways, and that's fine. Like, everything doesn't have to sound exactly the way I want it to. But here with the Solis, you can see that it doesn't really deviate from my line, at least not until kind of the extremes. All right, so here from kind of like the upper bass, very, very deep, low, mid-range, this is basically all on target for my personal preferences. Up here in the upper mid-range, maybe a little bit of extra forwardness, but I'm certainly not going to complain about that. And then here you've got your usual 8K peak, which is just kind of like an artifact of how we measure these things. Don't worry about that too much. And then here is basically where it differs. I mentioned, right, kind of at the extremes, right? So at the low end, we've got a little bit of a sub bass boost, but definitely from these frequency response, I would not expect the Solis 2 to be a bassy IEM. I would expect this to be a very neutral sounding, mid-range focused IEM. Okay, it does have a nice little cute bass bump down there, and I will probably appreciate that. But just to set your expectations, if you're looking for a big bass, V-shaped, contrasty, I don't think that is what the Solis is going to sound like. And then up here, the only other deviation, pardon me, is in the upper treble, where it does look like the Solis is on the polite side. And interestingly enough, that was true of the original Solis as well. Which makes me think that now it's probably some sort of intentional thing where, okay, I mentioned that I have the original Solis and that I think it's okay, but I didn't really describe the sound. And so what I did like about the Solis is its mid-range focused sound signature. Just has like a nice, soft, easy presentation, not aggressive, very, very just like hyper mid-range focused. And for music that does well with that, the original Solis is actually pretty great. Again, the bass is not very great on the original Solis, so I do have higher expectations here. Not just given that curve, but also given that it's double dynamic drivers, which is pretty appealing. But yeah, back to this. We were talking about this upper treble being kind of a softer treble, less of a like super in-your-face engaging extended treble, which tends to be like my ideal preference. But this nonetheless looks, like a pretty attractive treble curve. So yeah, no surprises there necessarily, but I will say that is pretty appealing, at least on paper. But of course, we've got to listen to the earphone to be able to review it, and that's what I will be doing for, I don't know, next week or so. I'll be listening to this. I'll compare it to what I've got on hand. Again, I am not in my usual studio, so I don't have all of my usual stuff on hand, but what I do have around, I will compare here with the Solis. I'll try to pull out the original Solis from storage. I think I can make that happen. Yeah, we'll be back with a full review. But until then, if you haven't already, please do hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, ding the YouTube bell, and I'll catch you on the next super review. And if you can't wait until then, well, I've got the Solis 2 linked in the description down below as well. And also join me on Discord. I've got my Discord linked in the description as well. We're not doing live streams for the next couple of months while I'm in this rental. But if you want to continue the live conversation, joining me and the rest of the community on Discord is a great way to do that. So with that out of the way, have a good week, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.